I'm Adriana Oliveira. I'm Brazilian and originally from Rio de Janeiro. I'm a rehabilitation counselor, which means I help workers who have been injured on the job get back to work. I can somewhat understand their situation, since when I was 11 years old, I fell off a cliff and became paralyzed. But in a way, I was fortunate because it changed my life. And after my accident, I became very athletic. And I also like to travel. I had traveled to Europe before, but wanted to see more of it. I was very interested in Ireland. I wanted to go to Ireland because I heard it's a very beautiful country with an amazing culture and history. I would be visiting the west coast of Ireland, where the Irish tradition and culture is still very strong. When I was looking out the window, my first impression of Ireland was that it was so green.
We'll be landing shortly, thanks.
It was beautiful. Ireland is very different than where I'm from. Rio de Janeiro is very hot and new. In Ireland, it's an old country with old culture and legends.
Adriana, 40 Connemara.
Nice to
How are you doing? I'm going to show you some great things in Ireland over the next few days.
My guide for the trip was Con, a man who loves his country and is very knowledgeable about Irish culture. We headed towards the countryside, and on the way, we passed beautiful mountains, lakes, and ancient castles. Con, it's a beautiful place. Where are we?
We're in the hills of Connemara in West County Galway, out here on the west coast of Ireland. We're in a little valley here called the Ina Valley.
You're very lucky to live in Ireland. This country is beautiful.
Yeah, I feel really, really blessed. It's a very magical land. So south Connemara, where we're staying, is like in that direction there. And the ocean comes right in around us here, at the back of these hills, and up to Kylemore. So we're going to go through here and around the back of these hills.
One of the long-standing traditions in Ireland is the use of a matchmaker to introduce people who want to get married. I was curious about this process, so Con took me to meet a matchmaker, Willie Daly.
Hello, Willie.
Adrian, how are you keeping?
Doing good.
You're very welcome to Ireland.
Thank you.
Come on in and relax for a while.
So, Willie, I heard you're a matchmaker. What is that? What is being a matchmaker?
Well, I suppose matchmaking is, in Ireland, it's a tradition. Mm-hmm. It's a kind of a very old tradition that will say when a boy would arrive at a stage where he'd feel like getting married, or maybe where it might be suitable for him to get married, or if a girl decided that she would like to get married, that they would approach a matchmaker to find a partner for them. And it was a lovely, gentle way of people finding homes and finding happiness and finding love. And the matchmaker would be very busy. Now, my father, I'd be a third generation matchmaker. My father was quite busy in his time. My grandfather would be exceptionally busy.
Do you think there are more women, the men that contact you, or?
It's almost a little strange that it's all men that are living in the West. Now, there's basically, it is said that there's about 29 and a half fellas to every woman west of the Shannon. And that women who come on holidays, they'd be shocked at the amount of attention they get. When they come into a pub, they just can't believe the amount. They really have been adored, by lovely Irish men that are maybe sometimes 20 years younger than them.
Willie had a very interesting book that he started with his grandfather. It's a very thick book that looked very old with hundreds of names and pictures.
Willie, so can you explain exactly what is in this book? Like, for example, this picture and this letter here of all these beautiful girls.
Yeah, they are very beautiful girls now, and they'd be kind of oriental kind of girls, which is lovely. And of course, in Ireland now, again, that the Irish maid would be just shocked how nice these girls are to them. Some of these women have came now, and they just, every aspect of their life is about sweetness, I mean, they got letters. Some of these guys now lived in very remote places, and the only letters they might often have got would be kind of bills and stuff. But they got these lovely letters, and they were taken with, sometimes big lips on the letters and things. They were so proud of them, and sometimes a little bit embarrassed over them.
So they're looking for partners? They
were actually looking for husbands now.
How do people outside Western Ireland knows about you?
We are advertised, and we'd say through the matchmaking and horse riding in the internet. And a good lot of it comes from that.
So really, how successful are you in matching souls?
I would say quite successful, and it has slowed down, but we'll say in the beginning when I started this, and I was even sometimes when I think about it, was almost a little scary. Almost out of 100% of introductions, almost 100% would get married.
That's awesome.
But now we'll say it is completely the opposite now. Women now will say have got quite independent. A lot of them would have their own house, that have their own car, and that have very good salary, and they're not looking for a home, or they're not looking for a provider any longer. Now we'll say probably the percentage of people who would actually go to the altar would be about, maybe I think recently I'd done some kind of little survey, about maybe 23%, which isn't bad,
Still pretty good.
Willie has an office in his home, packed with books and boxes, with lots of names and phone numbers written all over the wall.
People would ring me maybe at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I said, anytime they ring, I don't mind. I might be in bed, and they'd say, Willie, I'm living here alone. Can you find me a wife? Can you find me some nice woman to share my life with? I'd have a list here now, we'll say, that I'd be currently working with, we'll say, that it'd be, without having to look through my files, and I'd just say, well, there's a lovely girl there now, her name, we'll say, is Dane. I know that if I let them go without giving them some hope, or somebody to get in contact with, they might just go away and forget about the idea again.
Bye, Willie. Thank you.
Bye, Adrian.
Before meeting Willie, I didn't trust dating services. But Willie really wants to help people find happiness. At the end of the day, we were invited to a house party where there was dancing and singing taking place.
Verim shehen mo dies en rosvin hai O glosh starne borin lum bant norui.
As I watched the step dancing, I realized that in Ireland, music was something you did and shared with your community. On the next day of my trip in Ireland, I decided I wanted to learn firsthand about the conflict in Northern Ireland and about the IRA, the Irish Republican Army. So Con took me to where the revolution actually started, to meet an expert in the history of Ireland's struggle against British rule.
So Joseph, who used to live in this house?
Well, this was the holiday home of Patrick Pearse. You could say he was the founder of our state. He was our George Washington, our Fidel Castro. He led the rising in Dublin in 1916 against the British. But in the years leading up to that, he spent quite a lot of time here in this house, writing and planning the revolution. The revolution was about getting the British out of Ireland. We have never accepted British rule in this country. And over the centuries, we have organised uprisings to try to oust them. And this one happened in 1916 in Dublin. And eventually, the IRA organised guerrilla warfare all around the country. And of course, in 1916, when the rising happened, my granduncle was one of the people involved. He was captured and sentenced to 15 years penal servitude in England. But they were released after a year, as a matter of fact, and he went on to take part in the IRA guerrilla warfare in this area.
That's where the revolution was designed, huh?
Well, yes, quite a bit of the revolution was planned here. Patrick Pearse, during his summer holidays here, brought the other leaders down from Dublin, and quite a bit of the planning was done here, yes.
The revolution uprising was in 1916. A lot of people were killed and imprisoned when actually the IRA, the new strategy, was started being used?
The prisoners adopted a new strategy under the leadership of Michael Collins. When they were released, they perfected the organisation, and the first ambush happened in 1919. So in 1920 and 1921, we had ferocious guerrilla warfare all around the country. And then the British left. They left the 26 counties.
Is there a part of IRA that does not agree with the peaceful integration of the Northern Ireland?
Yes, there is. There's a group they call themselves the real IRA.
So what I understand is a very difficult subject, or it would be difficult to bring everybody to accept one Ireland. What do you think is going to happen, or how this will happen?
Well, the British have stated they have no strategic interest in Northern Ireland, so that suggests they want to leave. But of course, you have a million people there who are loyal to Britain, and they will become the minority then, and they have to be treated with great respect and understanding. And it's a question of reconciliation. That cannot happen immediately. But the institutions are being created at the moment because of the IRA ceasefire. There is space there to create institutions to accommodate both traditions.
Let's hope this is the last phase of the revolution, the last step for Ireland to become one.
Yes, we've been at it for 800 years, so hopefully this will be the last chapter.
Down the road, I noticed a gathering of people getting ready for a fox hunt.
I can see that you guys are ready to go on a big fox hunt.
Yeah, we're getting ready to go, and we're going out into a beautiful country today.
Could you explain what exactly happened in the fox hunt? How do you start? And
Well, you'll see the hounds coming out in a few minutes, and we ride up to a cover that's one side of the lake there, and we put in the hounds, and the fox is very, very clever. He usually gets away ages before the hounds.
do you usually catch the fox?
No, we don't catch the fox only very, very rarely, except as a sick fox or a wounded fox.
And usually, how long does it last, a fox hunt?
And we start off at about 11:30, and we stay going until 4 o'clock in the evening.
5 hours just
Yeah.
riding the horses
riding a
all over
horse.
the field. And
Yes, well, sometimes it's very quiet, and sometimes it's not very quiet.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's very exciting.
very exciting.
A fox hunt happens when a farmer calls the riders and asks them to hunt on his property because the foxes are attacking the sheep. Fox hunting in Ireland is a game, a social event. Kids and adults all go hunting together. Once the hounds and the riders reach the field, they are off.
So the hounds there, rows of fox over behind the wall here, in the bushes. 30, 40 hounds, I suppose. And it ran in that direction to give the dogs the slip.
At the end of the fox hunt, the riders were all covered with mud. The hunters and the horses looked tired, but they were so happy just to be outdoors, jumping over fences and over walls and having fun. Before my visit to Ireland, I always thought fox hunting was a savage game. But in Ireland, everyone participates in the hunting and has fun. So, I think it's an okay sport if it's part of their culture. At the pub, I ran into a very interesting man who told me about some of the folklore of Ireland.
So, Eddie, I understand you're a local storyteller?
Yes, I've been interested in storytelling for a quarter of a century, I suppose, and more important, maybe, story gathering. I've listened for years and years, and it's a privilege to be able to to go into houses, old people's houses, and just sit down, shut up, and listen while they tell you what they know, and by God they know. There was a fairy bush that I knew of. I had been told stories about it by old people, and the road builders were going to demolish it. Now, I told them, look, if you demolish that bush, a fairy bush, a skeach in Irish, you're asking for trouble. People are going to be killed at this place. You think the fairies are going to allow their property to be interfered with even by important-looking £1 million schemes? That road is a £20 million bypass. After considering it, and after a lot of publicity in the New York Times even it made, they decided they wouldn't. They'd build the road around the bush. Isn't that surely, bit of God, a sign of civilization? Not foolery, not superstition. That people would still, even today, make allowance for things spiritual. I think that's impressive. I think it is beautiful.
What is a fairy bush?
A fairy bush is always, nearly always, a white thorn, a hawthorn. And it's the bush that attracted the fairies. Nowadays in Ireland, 99 people, maybe not, 95 people out of 100, if you mention the fairies. Big joke, big laugh. But about 70 out of that 90% underneath, in their own private minds,
They still believe.
they believe. They laugh only because they're afraid of being laughed at. And the sad thing about it is, it's just our modern materialistic culture that thinks it knows everything. That's the first culture ever to make no allowance for all of these things. But it's changing. Back again, you can see that there is a change, that people realize you can't live without something of that other world of mystery. Call it what you like. Religion, fairies. People need that other dimension. And if they don't find it through these natural things, they find it through drugs or a lot less desirable ways.
Before I talked to Eddie, I didn't believe in fairies and leprechauns. But after hearing his stories, I feel they may exist. Soon after my talk with Eddie, the pub filled up with regulars, including a group of musicians. Irish music is very strong. It tries to connect people with each other. It's a way to share the emotions and their stories. The music and the conversation I had with people helped me connect my life with theirs. I was looking forward to experiencing more of Ireland. On the next day of my trip in Ireland, Con took me to see one of the Aran Islands. I went to the largest island, called Inishmore. So Con, where are we going?
Well, I thought it's fitting that we'd take you out today to a really magical place out here on the Aran Islands. And down here in the thatched house is a great man called Marcus O'Flaherty. He's a great character. He's known as the king of the dancers.
Yes.
In the summertime he runs a jaunting car and he has a tiny little farm. Hello, Marcus.
Hello, Marcus.
This is Adriana.
Nice to meet you.
Good.
Oh, what a beautiful dog. Okay, boy.
Marcus is just on his way up the road here to feed a few cows.
Okay. Marcus is a farmer, and a farmer in Inishmore means he has a small property which he keeps some cattle and he grows some crops. And how many people live in this?
There's only 2 houses here now.
2 families?
Well, 2 families. They're all empty now, them houses.
Oh.
They're all empty. I live in the thatched cottage down there now.
The roof of Marcus's home was made of rye, a type of straw he grew in the fields. Oh, and you put kind of a net on the top.
The twine, we put the twine down and across, you know, to save it from blowing, you know. The one that blowed, only for the twine, the one will blow.
Yes, that's amazing.
And we do one side every year.
Yes, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Wow, cute house, Marcus.
It's not too bad, you know.
So, Marcus, who built this house?
Oh, well, my great-grandfather.
Very nice. Is it hard to live on this island?
Well, you know, we have our own potatoes and fish and things like that. We go fishing off the rock, you know, for mackerel and pollock and things, you know.
Do you go fish also?
Yeah. In the summertime, we salt that then for the winter, you know.
Oh.
Yeah.
How is your day like?
Well, I get up in the morning, you go to the cattle and give them hay, and then maybe build a few walls, you know, and things like that.
I think Con is going to take me to visit your wife, Meg.
Maggie, over in Kilmarby, yes.
Nice.
As we drove away, I felt that although Marcus's life was hard on the island, he wouldn't be happy anywhere else.
What's on to Maggie?
Hello.
Show Adriana.
Hello, nice to meet
Hello,
you.
how are you? You're very welcome.
You remind me of my great-grandmother and grandmother. They used to make sweaters all the time and watching TV. Maggie, were you born here in the island?
Oh, I was born and reared, yes.
And you live your whole life here?
Yeah, well, like most people in my age group, we went away and then came back again.
Was life hard on the islands before?
Life was hard for men who had large families because they'd have to fish and work very hard with the bit of land, yes. And they also had to put soil on rock. I'm sure there were times when they felt there were green hills far away, but
I imagine.
yeah.
How did you learn to knit, Meg? And do all the women around here knit?
It's a way of life. It's as I said, I don't remember a time that I was not able to knit. I remember it was a little boy who taught me how to do the diamond.
Oh.
Because he was a little older and he watched his mother.
So
and
men who used to knit
an
also?
odd boy here and there who took an interest, but it was supposed to be a little sissiest to be, so boys didn't like it.
So it's part of the women's job.
Yes. But it was a continuation of just finishing a garment and starting off another one. But the wool and the sweaters were very much done for the family. I mean, they sold very little until it was recognised, maybe in the 50s and early 60s.
That's when they start selling them.
They began, people wanted to know about the Aran sweaters.
Meg, so when I come back to the island again with more time, I will come back and visit
All
you.
right,
so you
I'll
can
give
teach
you
me.
my time and I'll make a good knitter out of you.
Thank you so much.
After visiting Maggie, Con was anxious to take me to see the cliffs of Benishmore.
Isn't it amazing?
Ireland is a country with very strong traditions and a very specific culture. Music, socialization, family, and being with people, it's very important to them. So I think Ireland reminded me that human contact and being with people, it's an important part of our lives. Maybe that's what travel is all about. It's learning and cherishing different cultures and being able to change your perspective. And I only saw a small part of Ireland. And I can't wait to go back.